If you haven't already, it would be advised if you watch the series by itself to gain a better understanding of this coverage, as this video examines one topic out of the others present in Angel Hare. Spoilers will be present throughout the entire video, especially at the beginning. I'll also warn that this video contains material that could be triggering to people who are sensitive to topics or mentions of them, such as abuse. Before diving into the main topic, let's go over the plot, up until what's been released during the making of this video. The protagonist of the series, Jonah Whitman, rewatches a cartoon from his early childhood after coming across an official VHS copy of it from a thrift store. But after watching it, he recognizes that the show doesn't align with his memory on how he remembers it, leading him to compare his old VCR recordings of Angel Hare to the official tape. Being shown the differences between them, it is discovered that an angelic entity, taking the form of this show's protagonist, Angel Gabby, was communicating with and guiding Jonah when he was a child. This soon turns into a journey of Jonah recovering his memory and digging up the past. This entity had a purpose for being present around him because during the time of these recordings, Jonah was being abused by his father. Under these circumstances, Angel Gabby has helped Jonah survive and, well, as best as possible, avoid getting physically abused or hurt in any other way. Examples are shown through the series, such as having to retreat to the bedroom, locking the door, and hiding in the closet when his father was in an aggressive state. Though Angel Gabby provided more than just survival. She provided lessons and comfort.
We feel safest where we go to sleep. Do you want your room to feel safe? This little chair is going to be stronger than anyone who comes to your door. If we put it backwards like this, it will be like your own lock and key. I like to take a big, slow breath to keep me calm. Would you like to try? Very good, Jonah. Now you don't have to be scared, even if he finds you.
There is more that unravels throughout than just Jonah's previous traumatic life. Now knowing why Angel Gabby is present in his life, we get to see what is the next step taken by Gabby. She goes as far as teaching a child to hide and dismantle a gun that the abusive father had, and afterwards commented on how dangerous both Gabby and Jonah can be and how to hide the truth of what's to come.
The colors show other animals that they're dangerous. We can be dangerous too, Jonah. We can keep them away with just our banner. If you know you're going to be in trouble, you should create a truth for later. Go to a friend's house when something bad happens, and you won't have to lie about it when they ask you later. They are going to ask you what happened, Jonah, so you have to make sure you're gone when the time comes. Now that we've got the pieces apart, let's think of somewhere to hide them where nobody can use them for harm. Not the kitchen. A lot of people hide things in the kitchen and there's too much traffic for it to be safe.
This is of course a buildup of Jonah being led to kill his abusive father. He has completely forgotten how his guardian angel and childhood cartoon was responsible for helping Jonah get rid of his source of suffering. The initiative was now complete, disclosing what he actually watched, or rather, talked with through the cartoon, and finally recovered his memory at the cost of reliving a chunk of his trauma. But his journey is not finished yet, as he now desires to reach out to his guardian angel again, to see Angel Gabby and be back with her. The way he comes back into contact with her is by playing the VCR recordings on a Twitch livestream, since the broadcasting of the cartoon is how Angel Gabby was able to communicate in the first place. Jonah's idea works as he's able to publicly communicate with her through the internet. The second half of the series, labeled as Case, explores further into where angels are able to travel through the broadcast, the web, and forms of media. It is still worth watching as this expands not only the world that Angel Hare is in, but the story itself. But this video is focused on the escapism aspect rather than the world and its Christian mythology it introduces. It is a common occurrence to look back on something that from one's childhood so fondly, especially if it's going off of just memory itself. Not all the time, but a good portion of the time when we're looking back on the childhood piece, It's not really up to expectation on how great it felt emotionally when we were watching it as a child. It's hard to claim that this is the message or premise Angel Hare displays because the cartoon itself was the parental figure Jonah needed when his mother wasn't around. There was a genuine reason why he was so attached to this cartoon rather than just being fascinated with animated animal characters on the TV. A literal angel took care of him and saved him in trying times. The series takes advantage of that commonality of that nostalgia, that is, the attachment to the cartoons we had or have, and manipulates it into Jonah's nostalgia that the cartoon was personalized for him, especially throughout the angel's means. In general, this is the obvious twist and main plot point since it wouldn't be anything special if it ended at Angel Hare being a normal cartoon Jonah just looked back on. It could be said that people grow out of this fascination and are no longer as attached as we all mature when it comes to childhood elements. But that's not everyone. There are circumstances people have gone through with little to no help, especially being a kid, being more vulnerable. More specifically, kids whose parents weren't around as much to be taken care of or bond as much with them. In general, how absent a parent/caretaker was in times of need. These situations aren't a rarity when we live in a struggling world where people are doing their best to survive and keep up, leaving parents having to work hours of their life in exchange to have their child and themselves have everything in need to survive. Hell, even more traumatic examples play a factor, such as child neglect or substance abuse, where the child must avoid the parent when they're under the influence, leading to the separation/relationship of the child and parent. So, being talked to by the characters we were memorized by at a young age probably has a future effect on how we connect to fictional characters. I mentioned the mere nostalgia of a cartoon people have for a show is applied to Jonah, but the show he's nostalgic for was twisted into something more personalized. Not only the series' intended audience is people who are nostalgic for older cartoons similar to Angel Hare, but another target audience are those who did or still feel emotionally attached to animated characters, which seems to be another plausible target audience. From the writing, it seems like the Mangan sisters, sorry if I butchered that, writers of Angel Hare, understood the fantasy people have of interacting and bonding with a fictional character and weren't afraid to insert that. I'm not claiming this is the intention, but it is an important perspective that others may have. It's gonna get geeky and technical for a moment here, so bear with me. It would be unfair to state that Angel Gabby is Jonah's comfort character since the two don't express similarities in character traits. Jonah doesn't strive to be like her nor make any remarks about how similar they are. With a comfort character, you see yourself in a fictional being. It's reassurance that you're not alone, that someone gets you and shares traits with you. As different a comfort character is from the kind Angel Gabby is, it is still relevant to the topic since the focus is on how important fictional characters can get us through trying times. It would be much more difficult to get through life if there wasn't a character represented in any kind of media that you personally felt resembled you, since some of us need some sort of figure to look up to, or at eye level, rather. Angel Hare's story is themed off of a real-world person having a deep relation with a fictional character. I'm sure all of you have seen the photos of people either photoshopping themselves, wrapping their arms around their waifus or any character they would date. Or for all of you real ones out there, that one episode series, Mike and Melissa, is an example of a delusional loner fantasizing having a furry girlfriend that's the perfect woman in his eyes. Seeing the video or not, the point is that we've seen how far individuals would go to being attached to a character they're heavily fond of. There are countless examples that can be pointed out of similar occurrences, and of course such posts online are grouped into previous compilations and made fun of in general. My friends and I are as guilty finding such photos or videos and sending them to each other and blatantly making fun of them. This is the kind of view someone may have when watching Angel Hare, up to the point where it's revealed that present-day adult Jonah and Angel Gabby can, well, limited to a screen, can touch each other's hands.
I'm so happy to see you, Jonah. Just look how well you've grown.
The reception of one of the people I watched this with was a negative response, as they expressed it came across similar to some sort of fan fiction. The reasoning for pointing this out in the first place is that some people have this kind of lens when it comes to the series, specifically Tape 6 ending. It's important to at least provide different views people may have on this series. So far, the reception of Angel Hare has been positive. Scrolling through the comment section, you can read how relatable this series is to a lot of people. That being having a father who was a horrible parent figure, being alone in times when they needed someone the most, even with a few comments wishing they had an angel to have been there for them, which shows how well Angel Gabby's character was executed. On top of that, religious trauma is another factor the comment section brought up, considering the series has an obvious theme of Christianity. Not that the series is about that kind of trauma specifically, but rather how the theme reminds others of their experience in households or churches of how much a victim will be shamed upon or harassed throughout their life, or in general any kind of abuse occurring in such environments. Backtracking a bit, as much positive reception there is, it's still worth pointing out the cynical lens that people may have. What matters is that these cartoons or characters are an element of helping a person get through trauma or difficult parts of their life to deal with. Some of us are guilty of judging on why someone resorts to something that is not expected to be obsessed over by an older person. Angel Zazagal makes a remark of how weird it is for an adult to be obsessed with a kid's cartoon, pretty much insulting the very thing that helped him survive his traumatic childhood.
Looks a little old for cartoon rabbits.
Similar statements have been made when people see someone else's obsession, as far as being ridiculed for such an interest. Granted, it's possible for an individual to have an unhealthy fixation on a fictional piece, to the point it takes over their life and personality. But not only that's very few and far between, but we're focused on a commonality that should be taken more seriously. Unless later in the series, Jonah takes a step to somehow propose to Gabby, then maybe it won't be so few and far between after all. I mean, there have been people that married plushies or holograms of their favorite fictional characters, so who knows how far Angel Gabby's and Jonah's relationship will go. Now that we've gone through a few aspects of Angel Hare has laid out in the series, what's so special about Angel Hare to make an analysis video that isn't focused on just the world building and its lore? Well, it is normal to have a fictional character help you get through the hardships of life. Even if someone's personal fixation on one appears embarrassing to be attached to, everyone has their reasoning, and it's important to take the time to understand or at least accept what they resort to. I may not always practice what I preach, but it is important to remind ourselves of why people do the things they do. Simply putting your feet in other people's shoes. We could be judgmental towards what we don't understand or fully relate to. It's perfectly natural, but we don't know everyone's background. And somebody's favorite cartoon character they image or look at is probably the only thing that can understand them or be free from any kind of judgment. But like what has been mentioned, it's also a way for someone to deal with any kind of trauma they went through, either as a kid, as recently, or even sadly, right now. This is not a fully heartfelt topic to cover nor discuss, but if any of you have similar or specific situations you've had to deal with, leading to resort to any kind of escapism or comfort, do feel free to comment on this video, because everyone's experience and comfort deserves to be listened to. So please feel free to share your stories. If either of the Mangan sisters are watching, I do apologize if leaving out the Christian elements of the series heavily subtracts the emotion and meaning you've put the effort into portraying your series. This is one person's view of analyzing your series that I personally believe possibly connects to people regardless of faith. The series personally struck a chord with me, as a majority of it hit close to home as someone who suffered domestic abuse, and the way I coped with it is by imagining my favorite characters from cartoons and video games being present when no one else was there. I want to express how thankful I am that you made a series that touched upon a heavy topic, at the same time having people connect to it. I could have missed one interpretation of how any kind of faith or religion can help an individual seeking comfort and guidance within their life. And maybe that's one of the reasons why Angel Hare includes such elements of Christianity.
I have not thought about him in a while, but Nightcrawler from X-Men has always been very dear to my heart. I especially related to him a lot as I sort of came to terms with the otherness of my queer identity and neurodivergence. I also took a lot of interest in his personal takes on religion and his own paradoxical Catholicism as I worked to move away from my conservative Christian upbringing. I am kind of pagan now, but it was a step in the journey.
When I was in high school, I was really into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And my favorite character from that is Josuke from Part 4. I don't think a character has ever influenced me so much to the point he has, and in high school, I really wanted to be like him. I used to make my hair like his without being too silly. He motivated me to work out more, even just made me want to be better and cooler. And even 4 years since he was such my favorite thing ever, I still do little things that tie back to him. I even got the same brand of shoes he has in the series a week ago from my work. So I definitely owe a lot of myself to Mr. Higashikata.
Not really anymore, but as a kid I really liked Azrael Dreamer because he wanted to be this god character. But in reality, he was just a little dude, related to his normal form more. As a kid, and even now as an adult, I have a lot of family attention on my academics and athletics, and it feels like I have to keep this perfect persona. But in reality, I'm this kid with ADHD and I struggle with a lot of basic tasks and just straight up do not fit in. Over time, I have learned to cope and accept it, but when I was a weird ass kid, he would be like my number one dude.
Back in high school, I developed a pretty bad social anxiety and low self-esteem, but I was in denial. I wanted to force being normal and like I didn't have any problems. And then, shortly into that first year of high school, I watched Watamote, and it was like one of the most cathartic experiences because I related to Tomoko about 100%. I think it was my introduction to what social anxiety was and really boosted me to accept things about my personality, like being an introvert, socially awkward, anxious, and had messed up thoughts, weird, and that each of those things were okay. Even funny, hell, I didn't even know those things existed outside of me. This show helped me let out air I had been trying to hold and didn't need to. Then, before starting college, I watched Evangelion, and oh boy, Evangelion is a piece of media I hold in high esteem and appreciate to this day, but I wonder if it's something I shouldn't have seen at the time I did. When I first watched it, it was like taking a deep dive into a depression within me. With this one, I strongly related to Shinji, and also felt this embrace like, damn, this show gets me. But unlike watching Watamote, this show left me feeling a way I don't know how to describe. I'll just say that what preceded were still some of the worst and emotionally intense months of my life. Even though it's good art, this is one of the reasons why I think media can be dangerous. It comes down to someone's sensitivity, I guess. After Watamote, I did dwell on some of these labels of being asocial and stuff for a while, but it was part of a process in which I moved on with these things I guess I just have to live with. But they don't have to determine what my life is or my happiness. Today, I'm more social, open and outgoing than I've been in a decade, and these are shows I still love regardless of what they deal with. Well, I love them because of what they deal with. I wonder if I'd feel more lonely in the world without them.
Midna. Besides being my favorite character from a series I love, her personality stuck with me from a young age. I did not quite understand how she was using Link as a pawn at the time, but I understood her apology and how she changed to be nicer and helpful, yet keeping her personality. It kind of built mine, where I grew my personality trait of always annoying yet helpful, or sarcastic yet sweet, I hope. She also has some of my favorite colors. Both forms are beautiful and her abilities are to die for. I like her Twilight aesthetic a lot, her sarcastic jokes, always keeping it real, etc. She is just the best. She is a tough girl who likes pink. She alone brought me back to liking pink, actually. When she wants to be, she actually can be an ass kicker. She is a girly girl who likes cute things, is a biker, and just overall a cutie who's fun to play as or draw. Leon S. Kennedy. Who saw this coming? He is a big softie, loves his sassiness, and is just so sweet and hot. Overall, he seems like a good role model with how much he wants to help people no matter how stressful the situation is. Kind of a little motivation to keep doing nursing. There is a couple, but one that sticks out, sorry to be cringe, but Jeff the Killer. Do not get me wrong, he is a creepypasta and a murderer. But when I was a kid, I was told to hide everything and I was expected to be perfect since I am the eldest sibling. But when I found out about creepypastas and him, a door opened that led me to a lot of drawings and outlets. When something stressful would happen, I would sit there and draw him a lot. Then it went to other villains like Tiger Star and Scourge from Warrior Cats. They are beasts that would destroy things. They were characters that would take what they wanted and do whatever they wanted without care. That is something I would have wanted, knowing that people in my life would take and leave. Well, one of my favorite comfort characters I have always had was Foxy from FNAF, to be honest. When FNAF first came out, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and depression at the time. Felt like the world was very hard growing up due to having mental health issues at such a young age. FNAF came out, and I found out about it online. I saw all the amazing characters, and I saw Foxy. When I first heard his name was Foxy, I got so happy because in my family, my nickname is Foxy. So knowing a character had my name made me feel such a cool feeling. Months later, I saw a lot of art and music of it, and it made me feel so amazed and helped me ignore all the bad things in my life. Looking at Foxy in these art pieces and silly videos made me have such a connection that related so much. Because of FNAF, it introduced me into the furry community, and seeing all these furry artists with such amazing talent, it has helped me meet so many amazing people in the furry community. I am so glad about who I am today.
Greg from Night in the Woods has always been an incredibly relatable character for me, specifically the conversation he had with May in the woods when they were shooting his crossbow. It starts off with May stating that she's noticed how Greg's been up and down lately, which leads to Greg asking May if she thinks if he's a good person. After May reassures him that he is, he responds with a "I don't know." which shows that despite receiving the reassurance from a good friend about a problem he's struggling with, it still persists within him, which is an issue that still heavily bothers me to this day. He then talks about how his boyfriend, Angus, has dealt with a lot of assholes in his life, mirroring the exact situation with my BF, and that Angus does need him, but Greg is constantly worrying about if he is the right person for Angus, as he constantly thinks he's a total piece of shit, along with believing he is going to mess the relationship up in some way or another. This conversation was very impactful for me. Greg's mindset and anxiety mirror mine almost one for one. Angus's life situation mirrors my boyfriend's pretty well. Progressing through the game and seeing Greg develop and starting not to worry as much was genuinely helpful with my own doubts and anxiety. Because of how much Greg and Angus's relationship mirrors my boyfriend and I's current relationship, we started calling each other Bug, which is a nickname Greg and Angus call each other. Again, this game has really helped me in a lot of ways, and I implore anyone who hasn't played Night in the Woods to give it a try. It's an incredible game. One of the narratives the series could portray is how it is important to move on from what is relied on. Jonah being so desperate to have his guardian angel back to spend time with her can come across as selfish, since Angel Gabby is present to help other people in need who are in similar situations or for other reasons, which could indicate that Gabby needs to search for others that need her presence more than ever, and that Jonah needs to come to terms with. Though at the same time, it is hard to argue this point when the latest episode ended with Gabby being reunited with Jonah after she got lost, indicating that he gets to spend as much time with her as both of them desire. The series doesn't seem to be completely over yet since the latest episode, Case 6, left a cliffhanger to be determined. As of now, it's not known what is coming next or what it will be about. We'll just have to find out.
Arby's doesn't have a beef with burgers. However, Arby's does have a
Gabby.
Arby's does have a
Gabby.
brisket